Sweet Erica, playing in the morning, baby. Welcome to the morning grind, everybody. This is PSW's Prime Sports World's morning podcast, and we have some great topics that we're gonna go over today. I'm Israel Rivera. We're gonna go over the MLB. We're gonna go over, recap Friday, studs, duds, and breakout players. We're gonna go over boxing and what's going on in the boxing world. Daniel Jacobs, Sergio Mora, too, has moved. We're gonna talk about PBC this weekend. We're gonna talk about Andre Ward's Sergey KOVALEV. We're gonna talk about Terrence Crawford, Deontay Wilder. Okay, we're gonna talk about the eurocup, COPA America, for all my soccer fans. And then we're going to go and move on to the Derrick Rose Bulls, really, trade rumors between Jimmy and Derrick Rose. So we have a lot planned on the morning grind. Okay. So first we're going to start off with the recap for Friday, basically, in the MLB. We had some good games, some breakout games, actually, yesterday. Michael Saunders hit 3 home runs. Let's just go over that for starters. Michael Saunders hit 3 homers yesterday, which was pretty impressive against the first place team in the Baltimore Orioles, as they beat them 13-3. The Cubs beat the Pirates 6-0. Jake Arrieta threw a gem, and we're going to talk about that next. Diamondbacks, they beat the Phillies 10-2. Mariners trying to catch ground in that AL West division. They beat the Red Sox 8-4, which the Red Sox not good. Baltimore lost. So they you want to gain ground on your first place opponent. But at the same time, it's a long season, so they got time to catch up on the Baltimore Orioles. First place Indians beat the White Sox. What a tough one to lose, 3-2, and they won it in walk-off fashion, which was pretty. Santana hit a homer to center to beat the White Sox in the bottom of the 9th, which is pretty crushing to the White Sox. But it's still, like I said, it's a long season. And the White Sox are only a couple games out from first place, so they got a lot of time this season to catch up. But they need to start getting it going. I mean, the White Sox they started out real hot. There was this big deal. Oh, the Cubs, the White Sox, 2 best teams in baseball. They're gonna go to the World Series. Well, that's fizzled down. The White Sox have not played a good brand of baseball, and a lot of people around town have said maybe it's the manager change. Maybe Robin Ventura hasn't really been that fire starter for that team. So people said, hey man, we need to change these managers, but I don't think it's the managers. I think the White Sox, they don't really have a great farm system, so they don't really have a lot of great prospects. They kind of really missed on free agency in terms of getting Ian Desmond. They thought he was he was done. Ian Desmond's starring this year. He is breaking out this year for the Nationals. The Braves, the lowly Braves, they beat the Mets 5-1. Marlins beat the Rockies 5-1. It was a full slate of baseball yesterday. Giants beat the Rays 5-1. Yankees beat the Twins 8-2. So they're trying to catch up ground on the Baltimore Orioles. The Reds beat the Astros in the 11th inning 4-2. The Royals beat the Tigers 10-3. Cleveland won obviously, so they didn't gain any ground. But the Royals are coming. I mean, it's a long season. They're gonna be by All-Star break. The Royals should already be in stride. They're gonna win that division. I'm picking them to win that division easily. The Rangers, staying afloat. They're dominating the AL right now. They're dominating the AL West. They beat the Cardinals 1-0, which is a tough one. The Cardinals, lost a lot in terms of Hayward, and they just haven't been playing well this year. They've been pretty average. It's pretty much of a letdown from how they played last year, but At the same time, like I said, it's a long season. They're definitely not going to catch the Cubs. The Pirates aren't going to catch the Cubs. None of those teams in that division, the NL Central, are going to catch the Cubs. Let's just put that out. You're not going to catch the Chicago Cubs. They're about 10 games out, 10 games up right now. And basically, you just better hope that you get one of those wild card slots because, you're not going to win the division. So St. Louis has a long road ahead of them. The Oakland A's won, actually. Shout out to the Oakland A's. Golden State didn't win, but Oakland did. They won on Friday. So, 3-2 they beat the Angels. The Dodgers beat the Brewers 3-2 and in the 10th inning. And the Washington Nationals have been winning lately. I mean, they're one of the better teams in baseball. Probably top 5, top 6 teams in baseball. They beat the Padres 7-5. So with that being said, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move to the Jake Arrieta. I mean, he threw a gem yesterday, which was expected, but it was against the Cubs rival. The Cubs got a couple rivals in that division. Pretty much everybody's a division rival in the NL Central. But the Reds and the Milwaukee Brewers really haven't been really chirping at the Cubs. The Pirates have. Their manager, I think he's gone on the record saying that the Cubs aren't the best team in baseball and they're not as good as everybody says. Well, I mean, you throw your workhorse out there in Arrieta and he was dominant yesterday. Just dominant yesterday. And just another gem that he threw. I mean, he went 6 innings pitched, only allowed 2 hits, 3 walks, and 11 strikeouts. 1.74 ERA. Just amazing. I mean, Arrieta just, when he's out there on the mound, he's in cruise control. Most of the time, he's in cruise control. He's basically just letting teams have it. I mean, he's just mixing it up with an assortment of pitches, and he just added one to the book. And especially, it kind of means a lot to the Cubs to beat the Pirates, to beat your NL Central rivals, just because they want to kick them while they're down. All those years, the Pirates and the Cardinals were beating up on the Cubs when they were young pups, young cubbies, and now the Cubs have, turned the page. They turned the page. They broke out last year, and this year they're on a roll this year. They are out for blood. They're like sharks in the water, and they smell blood, and they're going in for the kill on every team that they're going against. Sometimes the Cubs may seem a little stagnant and seem uninterested in some certain teams sometimes. But that's going to happen in baseball. It's a long season. They play over 100-some games. And so, that's going to happen in baseball. You're going to have some lag. You're going to have players that they're not taking days off, but they're not up to, play the game like they've, been playing all year. Sometimes people do, don't concentrate at the plate or, don't concentrate at on the mound or in the field. So that's going to happen sometimes when the Cubs lose 1 or 2 games here or there. But other than that, in the long run, I mean, they are just phenomenal. Yesterday, Michael Saunders had a big night against Baltimore. He had 3 home runs, 8 RBIs. He was just phenomenal. Basically, Toronto is 39-31, and they're basically trying to catch up as well to the Baltimore Orioles. And so beating Baltimore by that much, I mean, they're obviously they're gonna play today here, in the afternoon time. But they're trying to catch up, and you got a 3-team race up there. And like I said, the AL East is pretty competitive with these teams now. Even your last place teams in terms of the Yankees and Tampa Bay are 5.5, 6.5 back. That's not that bad. I mean, you got a whole season to catch up. As of right now, it looks like it's Baltimore, Boston, and Toronto fighting for that first place. So Toronto definitely showed their offensive firepower yesterday, and Michael Saunders was like their main guy yesterday, scoring bringing in 8 runs. So we're gonna move on to this year. And the MLB has had their ups and downs in terms of players. Certain expectations for players. And I'm gonna go with our own segment in terms of studs, duds, and breakout players. And when I was looking at the player ratings, and in terms of like position ranks and everything, this is what I came up with. And so like I said before, if you have any concerns about the list that I made, this is my list. So if you have any comments about the podcast, like I said, I posted on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, SoundCloud, YouTube. We have a YouTube channel at Prime Sports World. So like I said, leave comments in the box. I will definitely get to you, and tell me what you think, and tell me your list of players, and we can have a debate. And I'll definitely answer everybody's comments, everybody. So here are my studs that have been breaking out so far this season. I'm gonna start one, Jose Altuve. Now he's been a stud since last year, So Jose Altuve has pretty much kept it going this year. And the little guy, I mean, he hasn't been bad and good lately. Lately, his player rating in his last 7 games is minus 1.25. But overall, he's had a really high. He has the highest player rating out of all the players that I have on this list here. He's in the 13s. He's in the teens in terms of player rating, and he's just pretty much doing it all: contact, hitting the ball over the field, stolen bases, really great on base percentage, really great IQ at the plate. So Jose Altuve basically been showing that. Reason for Boston Red Sox being in first place. I have Xander Bogaerts on this list. Xander Bogaerts has been playing phenomenally all year round. I mean, he started off hot, middle to 15 games in, hot. 15 games ago, hot. Last 7 games, he's cooled off. He's been cooling off throughout the season. It's like I said, it's a long season, but so far, Xander Bogaerts at the shortstop position has just looked phenomenal. He's looked pretty good this year. His teammate Mookie Betts in the outfield is a stud. He's been, he started the season off hot, and he's been cooling off of late. But his player rating is one of the highest, this year among these players. And Mookie Betts has been really, has been pretty good in that outfield for the Boston Red Sox. Another player that I wanted to put at that same slot that Mookie Betts is at was Ian Desmond. Ian Desmond for the Texas Rangers, and he's the main reason. He's one of the main reasons why the Texas Rangers are in first place. He has been phenomenal. He started off the year hot. Last 7 games hasn't been hot, but like I said to all these guys, long baseball season, over 100 games. Okay, Ian Desmond, the White Sox, they totally missed out on him. I mean, he was there for the taking, and they looked at his age. They said, "Hey, man, this guy's on the decline." Yeah, right. That guy's not on decline. That guy's been playing phenomenal ball. It's almost like the Ben Zobrist kind of thing. Like, oh, Zobrist is the veteran. He's not gonna do good amongst. Zobrist has been really good utility man for the Cubs. Really good. He played outfield, play infield, play second base, shortstop, third base, first base. Play pretty much any position on the field. I don't know if he could play catcher or pitcher, but he could pretty much play every other skill position on the field. So definitely Ian Desmond has been phenomenal this year. He's batting .311, 48 runs, 10 home runs, 44 runs batted in, 12 stolen bases. He has been pretty good this year. Really good. My next player on the list is Jonathan Villar of the Milwaukee Brewers. He's been really good this year. He's batting .300. He's got 37 runs. Accounted for himself, 6 home runs, 28 RBIs, 25 stolen bases. I don't know if I'm not mistaken, that might be the league lead in stolen bases. So his on base percentage is pretty good, and It's too bad that Milwaukee doesn't have enough around these guys that get, at least he's putting himself in like scoring position, with all those stolen bases, you got to steal him from first, and then from first to second. So he's putting himself in scoring position a lot of times. When he gets on base, pretty much he's putting himself a chance to score. Even if you get an extra base hit from first base, you get a double, this guy could score from first base. So Jonathan Villar has really shown me some things this year. And my fifth stud this year has been Ian Kinsler of the Detroit Tigers. He's been pretty much key to their successes this year. He's batting .307, 57 runs, 14 home runs so far, 45 runs batted in, and 7 stolen bases. He has been really good at second base for the Detroit Tigers. And basically he has basically showed me that he can and I hope that he doesn't cool off, but it looks like he's been getting better and better as the season has gone along. So Ian Kinsler is definitely a stud this year, and hopefully he keeps it going. He's looking like he's going to be a all-star this year. So shout out to the studs. Here are my duds. Jock Peterson has been a dud this year. He has not showed up this year. Pretty much. He's Jock Peterson was is one of the talents, one of the young talents. He's pretty young, in his early 20s. He was one of the best baseball prospects last couple years running. Couple years ago, he was one of the top prospects. They brought him up, I believe it was last year, in the Dodgers organization. But he has been terrible this year. He's batting .229. He's only got 29 runs, 11 home runs, 30 RBIs, and 3 stolen bases. Now, stolen bases isn't bad, and the power looks like it's there. 11 home runs. He's at 30 RBIs, but it's .229 batting average is pretty low, and that's due to a lot of strikeouts. He's struck out a lot. His on-base percentage isn't that high, and Jock Peterson he hasn't been looking. He hasn't looked comfortable at the plate. Now, naturally, those 11 home runs and 30 RBIs is just from pure talent and power that he has and he possesses. But it's more when you're at the plate. You have to understand your pitcher, the pitcher that's on the mound. You have to understand the game situations. You got a man on second, got a man on third. You don't need to hit for power all the time. Just spray the ball around, get a single, get a double, spray it around. And the problem with him, he just hasn't figured it out this year. And last year he started out hot and then he fizzled out late. And this year he's coming out the gates real slow. So like I said, it's a long year. Hopefully Jock Peterson can turn it around, but so far it just looks like he hasn't been comfortable at the plate at all this year, and it shows in his numbers. Andrew McCutchen. Now we're gonna say Andrew McCutchen because he's been a dud. He's been a dud this year. Actually, Starlin Marte has put up better numbers than him. Andrew McCutchen has not been. I don't know if he's injured. I believe I think he did have an injury early on in the season, but I don't think that would affect him at the plate. The guy. I think pitchers are more or less game planning for him. They're not giving him the balls that he wants to hit, and so it's led to a .243 batting average. He has not hit good for average at all this year. He has 38 runs batted in, 38 runs, 10 home runs, 26 RBIs, and 1 stolen base. Those are not good numbers for Kutch. Kutch is, MVP of this, former MVP of this league. He has been phenomenal, in his career, and so this year, I think he won MVP, if I'm not mistaken, a couple years ago. I got to check that up. If I'm wrong, I'll let you know on the next podcast. But Kutch has definitely started off, and they're going to need him. If they're going to make a run, they're going to need him. They're going to need Starlin Marte. They're going to need all those guys. I think they just brought up two of their best prospects from their farm system. So Andrew McCutchen. It's a long season, like I said. He's due to have a couple weeks probably like a month or two where he's just hitting phenomenally or he's just hot, and that's due to happen for Andrew McCutchen, and he'll be back to his regular high 290 300 batting average, where he's usually at. Because Andrew McCutchen is pretty much an all-around hitter. He doesn't just hit for power. He's the type of guy that can hit. He sees the situation, guy on second base, hit and run action, second base to third base. He's spraying the ball around second. Hitting for runs in terms of singles, getting extra base hits, and he has power. He can hit 30+ home runs and drive in 100+ RBIs and have a crazy good on-base percentage. But so far, he just has come out the gate very, very slow. My next player that's a dud is Jason Hayward. Jason Hayward has been terrible this year. I mean, he just recently just hit his last, just hit a home run, his first home run of the year. I think this was I want to say a couple weeks back. I mean, he's hit 3 more since, but Jason Hayward has been not that great for the Cubs. 234 batting average, and he's been hurt. He's been hurt a lot, kind of. I don't want to say most of the season, but he's had some hamstring problems, I believe. And then he had that one collision in the outfield where he was out for a couple days. Now he's healthy again, but he has been showing signs of life, in terms of on the plate, and they're gonna need him. They're going to need Jason Hayward, especially with Kyle Schwarber out. They're going to need Jason Hayward. I mean, he's been, like I said, 234. He's only accounted for 33 runs, 4 home runs, 24 RBI, 7 stolen bases. That's not going to get it done. For the amount of money that the Cubs paid for him, it's not going to get it done. You have to play better. You have to fill in that void. Luckily for the Cubs, they got so much talent in that lineup and on their bench that something like Jason Hayward really doesn't affect them too bad. But when it's come down to the October, Jason Hayward cannot hit like this. He has to show up at the plate. Now defensively, he has been pretty decent. He's always been a stellar defensive outfielder. But we're gonna need him at the plate, especially with Schwarber going down early in the year. The Cubs are gonna need Jason Hayward at the plate. Another guy that in a former Cub that has been a dud this year has been Starlin Castro. Now Starlin Castro, he is on the Yankees, former Cub, and he was supposed to fill in that Derek Jeter role. Basically that middle of the infield. He's supposed to be that guy to fill in that void at least. And nobody's gonna fill in the void of a Hall of Famer. Nobody's gonna do that. But at least Starlin Castro could have at least made it a little more, his presence a little felt more. And he's been pretty average this year. 255 batting average, 23 runs, 9 home runs, 27 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, and that's why the Cubs didn't really bring him back. They've started to see the decline in Starlin Castro, and we don't know. He's such a young player. Starlin Castro's still in his 20s. People don't realize that. This kid's young still. But the Cubs started to see that Starlin, I think, has a lot of distraction around him in terms of the people he surrounds himself with. I think he has a lot of distraction. I think, and as a player at the plate, I mean, early on in his career, he was a lot better, but he was, hungrier. He didn't have a lot of players on that Cubs lineup that, every day he was the man. He had to go to the plate, and he had to play good. And I think last year you started to see he was really average. And you could see that when the Cubs started getting more talent, that Starlin Castro's approach at the plate just was not that great. And so you have to change up your game. I mean, when you got more talent, you got to start playing. You got to start bucking up. So, he's been average, and the Cubs saw that, and that's why they didn't bring him back. And he's been average for the Yankees this year. But hopefully, like I said, it's the beginning of the season. He might have the that 2 month and a half stretch where he's batting .335 and hit 10 home runs and drive in 30 runs. So Starlin Castro still has some time to make it up for his average play this year. But definitely. I mean, it showed the Yankees are almost a last place team. They're tied for last place in that division. So, like I said, long season. And Starlin Castro, still a young player, very young, talented player, and he'll bounce back. He'll definitely bounce back. But it's gonna be an uphill climb to change that approach at the plate for Starlin Castro, since he's been so comfortable, at the plate, in terms of not reading pitchers pitches well. Pitchers aren't, giving him certain balls. I think with Starlin Castro, he likes pitches probably like, I want to say, belt waist, a little inside, but more towards the middle. And then, pitchers aren't giving him that. They're hitting the corners on him. They're staying away from him. But also, he hasn't been really good with a lot of high heat. You throw high heat. If you got a guy that's, strong arm, Starlin Castro hasn't been really great against guys with strong arms. So, put that into perspective there. My next player on this list is Adrian Gonzalez, who, just like Jock Peterson, not just like Jock Peterson, he's not quite as young, and he's been in this league for quite some time. But Adrian Gonzalez at first base is supposed to be one of the key cogs in the middle of the batting lineup, and he's been average 268, 23 runs, only 6 home runs, 31 RBIs. I mean, 0 stolen bases for a first baseman. He's not going to steal a lot of bases. But his on-base percentage isn't really that great. It's not really where they want it to be. He's batting. His average is average, pretty much. He's not batting in the high 2s, and he's not in the low 3s. So he's been pretty much not that great. But lately, I mean, he's been showing some life. Yesterday, he went 2 for 4. And then, the day before that, he went 0 for 4. So, I mean, in his last, I want to say his last 5 games, he is 3 for 18. That's bad. That's not good. With only 1 run, no RBIs, no home runs. Adrian Gonzalez has been on the steep decline this season. So, with that being said, I'm going to move on to my breakout stars. And, one of my breakout stars plays for the Padres, and Will Myers. And Will Myers has really showed us some things this year. Batting 284, 43 runs, 15 home runs, 41 RBIs, 8 stolen bases. He's been one of the bright spots for the San Diego Padres this season. Another player that's been very bright, that's been a breakout star this season as well, is Eduardo Nunez at the shortstop and third base position. He's batting 314, 33 runs, 9 home runs, 25 RBIs, 15 stolen bases. And he's pretty much been like one of the only bright spots on that Minnesota Twins team has been god awful this year. I mean, they've been terrible. My next player on the breakout list is Francisco Lindor, who is on the Cleveland Indians, and he has been one of their bright spots as well for a first place team. And so he's batted 304, 40 runs, 7 home runs, 34 RBIs, 10 stolen bases, and he's played really great at that shortstop position. He's been a really good defender, and that's pretty much what his whole thing was, that he was a defender. The hitting was going to come, and Francisco Lindor has really broken out this year, and I'm pretty sure, I mean, if he keeps this up, he will be on that All-Star team. And there's a lot of good players in this league, and I want to say he's a top 10 shortstop. I want to say top 7 shortstop. And with his batting average, I mean, he's one of the top infielders in the league in terms of, batting over 300 and on base percentage and everything. Next player on the list, and this goes along with my two top players in terms of Mookie Betts and Xander Bogaerts. Jackie Bradley Jr. has one of their top prospects has just come out the gates just hitting really good. And this is the reason why the Boston Red Sox are right there at the top, one game out of first place. They don't have the pitching, but they got all the talent all around them. They got outfielders that can hit and defend. They got infielders that can hit, defend, get on base, steal bases. They got it. The Boston Red Sox, I think, if somebody is gonna win that division, they're one of the favorites probably to come out. Them, Toronto, and I don't see Baltimore keeping this success up. So it's probably going to come down to Toronto and Boston. I know I said I picked New York Yankees by the All-Star break to probably hit their stride. But if the Boston Red Sox keep playing like this, David Ortiz has been pretty. He could have very well been on my studs list right now, but he wasn't. He's been a stud for his whole career. So Jackie Bradley Jr. has really, really been impressive, batting .304, 35 runs, 11 home runs, 44 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, and he's played great in the outfield. And so him next to Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts in the infield, I mean, they have been really good this year for the Boston Red Sox and have been very, they are the bright spots for that team, which is one game out of first place. My last player that is going to be on that breakout star list is Trevor Story for the Colorado Rockies. And it's been probably one of the only bright spots for the Colorado Rockies, who haven't been that great this season. His average, he's only been batting average .265, which is pretty, pedestrian. 38 runs. 17 home runs, 45 RBIs, 4 stolen bases. Now, 17 home runs, 45 RBIs. You know what that tells me? He strikes out quite a bit, but he doesn't strike out too much. He doesn't hit for extra base hits, or, he does hit for extra base hits, so he doesn't get a lot of, singles, but he has pop. 17 home runs already so far in this young season. Almost 20 home runs, and we're about a quarter way through the season. That is really good. 17 home runs is really good for Trevor Story, and let's see if he can keep it up. He's been a big bat in their lineup, and especially at shortstop, where he has to fill in for Tulo. So Trevor Story has been a real big bright spot, and has been a breakout star for them. And so I see, hopefully he could keep it up. It's like I said, and I've said this and I reiterated this all throughout the MLB segment, is that this is a long season, and so long season means a lot of guys are not going to show up sometimes on a night, and sometimes they're going to go for stretches where they're not going to show up, and pitchers are going to be watching film, and they're going to know batters' tendencies, and they're going to know how to pitch guys. And so when a guy like this comes out of nowhere and he starts hitting with pop, believe that there's going to be pitchers that are going to stay away from his sweet spots. And they're going to be pitchers that are going to be pitching around him, hitting the corners, especially as you get later on in the season and you start going against better teams. I don't see the Colorado Rockies really playing for anything this year. But, I mean, if he was on a better team, and even if he wasn't on a better team, you're going to just see a lot of pitchers, as he goes on in the season. And if he keeps, success hitting, he's definitely going to not hit like he has been hitting all year. So definitely pitchers are going to notice this, and they're going to put it in their game plan. Like, hey, this guy has sweet spot here, sweet spot there. Let's pitch around that. And you see that in a baseball season. A lot of young players fizzle out, in certain spots in the year, and that happens. And so Trevor Story is, we're going to expect that from Trevor Story. But as it sees right now, he's on pace to hit at least 40 home runs. So we'll see what happens in terms of that, and we'll take a close look. And on the next podcast, I'll recap more MLB news. I know we didn't get to it a lot on the Triangle, but on Prime Sports World, on the Prime and on the Morning Grind, we talk about our baseball. So let me move on to boxing. And there's a few stories here in boxing that are pretty interesting. Daniel Jacobs and Sergio Mora, their second fight is being moved to August 1st. I think it's still gonna be in Brooklyn, I believe. I still think it's gonna be in New York. Daniel Jacobs won the first fight, knocking out, stopping Sergio Mora in the second round. They were supposed to be the undercard to Leo Santa Cruz and Carl Frampton in the Barclays Center, but they ended up moving the fight to August 1st. So, we're going to see, two middleweights. We're going to see a second rematch, and let's see if, they can make it a little bit more interesting. Daniel Jacobs is a really big talent in the boxing world. So, I expect a little bit more of the same in the second fight. I see Sergio Mora maybe, not being so aggressive and getting caught by Daniel Jacobs like he did in the first fight. But I definitely see Daniel Jacobs winning that fight again, the second fight. Coming down. PBC is on this weekend. Don't forget to catch it. Juan Carlos Payano, who is a pretty good guy, pretty good prospect that is rising up in the ranks. He's going against Rashi Warren, and Payano is pretty much the favorite in that fight. Joe Smith Jr. versus Andres Fonfair, and I've seen Fonfair fight. He's pretty, He's not all that great, to be honest. Joe Smith Jr. is probably gonna make quick work out of him this weekend. He's pretty much the favorite this fight. So we're gonna see who wins these fights, and I'll talk about it on. I'll probably do a recap later on tonight, talking about PBC or tomorrow morning, whichever. And we'll go over those fights. I'll definitely be watching them, just to taking some notes down. Let's talk the big boy news in boxing. Okay, this just came out. Finally, Andre Ward is gonna fight. If Andre Ward is finally going to fight a worthy opponent, and Sergey Kovalev is finally gonna fight a worthy opponent, they are going to fight November 19th, with Andre Ward probably going to fight August 11th. The opponent has not been named yet. But if all goes well, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a prep fight for Andre Ward. He's probably going to pick some Joe Schmo, beat him up a little bit, just to prep him up for Sergey Kovalev on November 19th in Vegas. It's going to be on HBO. And both guys are, Kovalev is 29-0 with 26 KOs, and Andre Ward is 29-0 as well with 15 KOs. And obviously, as you could see, Sergey Kovalev has more power. He has more power. I believe Sergey Kovalev was the one. It was a boxer that beat. I want to say he beat Bernard Hopkins. I want to say that was last year. Sergey Kovalev is he's a beast, man. I mean, other than Gennady Golovkin. I mean, you talk about Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev, Gennady Golovkin as a light super middleweight. Andre Ward actually vacated his 168 title and moved up to 175. And he actually made quick work when he moved up to 175. He actually made quick work of his last opponent, 5th round TKO, and he moved up to 175 to fight Sergey Kovalev. He was just wiping everybody out in that division. And so Andre Ward moved up so he can fight better opponents. Sergey Kovalev. Hopefully, I mean, when we look at Triple G is a big guy to be middleweight. And so down the road, you're going to see those three guys fight each other. Andre Ward's, they're going to fight. Kovalev and Andre Ward are going to fight. And I'm pretty sure if Triple G fights Canelo or whatever, I'm pretty sure you'll see down the road Triple G going up in weight to fight Andre Ward or to fight Sergey Kovalev. And I'm pretty sure when it's all said and done, all three of those guys are going to fight each other. Kovalev and Ward are going to fight each other. Kovalev's probably going to fight Golovkin. Sir Andre Ward is probably going to fight Golovkin. And so, and I got Golovkin actually beating Ward, but I don't have Golovkin beating Sergey Kovalev. For some reason, I love Sergey Kovalev. I think he can beat Triple G, and a lot of people haven't been talking about it. A lot of people haven't talked about it, but I could see it. I could see Golovkin putting on. So I mean, he's big in middleweight. He's already a big middleweight. He looks dang near. He looks like he could be a light. He looks like he could be a super middleweight, a light heavyweight almost. So or like a super weight. So I mean, Golovkin looks like he can, add some pounds into that frame. So that's why I see that those fights happening down the road. But definitely, I'm very, very, very excited for Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev. That is going to be one of the best fights of this year, 2016. Moving on to another great fight that is going to be in 2016 is going to be Terrence Crawford versus the Pistol, Victor Postol. I love the Pistol. The Pistol is awesome. He just he just beat Lucas Matisse a few months back. He made real quick work of him. I think he knocked him out in the 10th round, I believe. Both of these guys are 28-0. Victor Postol Terrence Crawford has natural knockout ability. Terrence Crawford is the man. He has natural knockout ability. He has 20 KOs, 28-0, 20 KOs. The Pistol has 20. He's 28-0. He only has 12 KOs. But man, Victor Postol has one of the best straight right hands that I've seen in a long time. That's why they call him the Pistol, because he throws it right down the pipe. And when if he catches you with one of those nasty straight hands, you call it night time. And so Terrence Crawford has shown that he could take a punch. And so that's going to be a big fight. That's going to be a really, really good fight. One of the fights of the year. I'm calling it right now. One of the fights of the year. It's going to be on pay-per-view HBO. Originally, a lot of people thought it was just going to be HBO because, these two guys aren't really big household names. But I think HBO really said, like, hey, you guys are one of the top. You guys are the top prospects in your division, respectively. Everybody should get to know you on a main level. So, they're like, hey, we're going to put it on pay-per-view. And we're going to see how it does. And I think it's going to do well. I think it's going to be one of the fights of the year. Terrence Crawford is amazing. He's flat out. He's the next. He's next. Him and Victor Postol, they are next. And I think this is going to be a fight that's going to have at least 2 other fights added onto it. Whoever wins this first fight, I don't know if they have a rematch clause. But I believe if say Terrence Crawford or Victor Postol wins, one of them is going to want a rematch. They're going to have a second fight, and then whoever wins that fight, they're going to have a third fight and possibly a fourth fight. I am predicting this. This is what I'm predicting. I'm predicting that these guys are going to fight at least 3 times in their career. They're going to fight at least 3 times. So, and that depends on whoever goes up in weight or whoever goes down. But definitely, I could see these 2 guys fighting each other 3 times. If you could have a Timothy Bradley, Manny Pacquiao trilogy. Let's be serious. Come on, man. You can have a trilogy for Victor Postol and Terrence Crawford. There's a lot of money to be made between those 2 guys. In other news, Deontay Wilder, he's going to fight Chris Arreola after Povetkin canceled after testing positive for banned substances. They're going to fight July 16th in Alabama, which is Deontay Wilder's hometown. Chris Arreola, former 2-time heavyweight champ, but Deontay Wilder is the man. One of the mans in that division. Deontay Wilder, you got Klitschko, and you have 7-foot giant. I can't remember his name. Tyson Fury, Englishman. So we want to see Deontay Wilder fight one of those 2 guys. And Deontay Wilder's went on the record. He said, "Hey, I want to fight you, Tyson Fury. Hey, I want to fight you, Klitschko. I want to fight you, Vladimir Klitschko." But it seems like Fury and Klitschko, they're pretty much in their, they're gonna fight a second time. Fury, pretty much, that fight was so terrible. If that was one of the most boring fights I've ever seen in a heavyweight fight, Klitschko and Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, basically all he did was jab, run. That's all he did, and Klitschko couldn't really get a hold on him because he was running basically the whole fight and just jabbing him and doing a lot of movement. And the busy man wins boxing matches. If you're not like really throwing bombs or knocking people out, and you look busy and you're making contact and your punches are landing and they're not a lot of power punches. Like I said, the busy man, a judge likes to see the busier man in the ring. Tyson Fury, that fight definitely was the busier man against Vladimir Klitschko. But eventually down the road, man, we want to see these big fights in the heavyweight division. It's so dead. There's not a lot of big prospects, and Deontay Wilder is one of the few prospects that is worthy of getting some publicity in the heavyweight division. And back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s. I mean, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson, so forth. Were and you started to see it in the 90s. The heavyweight division started to die down in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s. You started to see it die down quite a bit. Definitely in 80s, 70s, 80s, 60s, really 80s. You started to see fewer and fewer prospects in the heavyweight division. So definitely we are going to move on to soccer. And the Eurocup, today's matchups are going to be Belgium versus Northern Ireland, Iceland versus Hungary, and Portugal versus Austria. And yesterday, let me look at the scores from yesterday. And if I'm not mistaken, there were some good games yesterday in European Championships. Let me take this look here. And so there were some good games. Italy beat Sweden, and Sweden's been pretty good. They've been pretty good the last few years. I want to say last 10 to 15 years. Sweden has churned out some really great prospects. Basically Europe is just a hotbed for soccer. Our basketball is their soccer. So basically these kids are starting out like 5 years old playing soccer in these clinics, not even 3 years old, and they got clinics that they send kids in Europe to sports academies, and they got some sports academies in the US, but not like Europe, where they like strictly these kids strictly, they look at your town, they strictly go to like basketball academies or soccer academies where they just strictly play soccer all the time, and that's their main reason why they're going to the school, and they basically teach you regular curriculum that you're going to learn in school, and then most of the time you're playing soccer or you're playing basketball, you're honing your skills. So that's why the European players in basketball and soccer, especially soccer, I mean they've always had a one up on the America in terms of soccer, but basketball they're catching up very slowly. Looks like Italy won on the 88th minute goal. It was a pretty good game yesterday. I didn't catch it at all, but just looking at the stats, just looking at how Italy scored, looks like it was a pretty interesting game yesterday. Czech Republic versus Croatia, which was a pretty highly anticipated matchup between those two, ended out in a draw 2-2, and Spain ended up playing Turkey, and they beat them 3-0. Pretty much dominated. And like I said, man, Spain is pretty much my favorite to win the Euro Cup this season. Like it is, Spain is pretty much always the favorite to win in the Euro Cup. So definitely that's a safe pick for me. I'm going Spain. I would see the only team that I could see maybe knocking out Spain. I have to look at group play to really understand, because they're in Group D. I could see them. I could see Spain versus like Italy. Or I could see like Spain versus Germany probably in the championship, in the Euro Cup championship. So today Belgium plays the Republic of Ireland. Iceland plays Hungary, and Portugal plays Austria, like I said earlier. And definitely I'm gonna go with Belgium against Northern Ireland. I'm going to go Iceland against Hungary, and I'm going to go Portugal against Austria. And if my picks are wrong, I'll let you know the next podcast. So I'll move on to Copa America, which isn't as big as the Euro Cup, obviously. Isn't as big as the Euro Cup. But yesterday, Peru and Colombia played to a tie, played to a draw. The day before, on Thursday, United States beat Ecuador 2-1. And today we're going to have some good matchup. Argentina versus Venezuela is going to be a really good matchup today. And Mexico versus Chile. Mexico versus Chile is going to be a very hard-fought matchup. Those two matchups today are going to be pretty darn good. Pretty heated between those two teams, especially Argentina versus Venezuela, which they've had history in the past before. So I could see that one playing out really good, probably ending out on like a last-minute goal or something like that. So definitely Giving a shout out to all my soccer fans in the world. I do talk about soccer on the Prime, on the Morning Grind, on all my PSW podcast, and so I don't forget about that game. That game, I love soccer. We love soccer here. We pay attention to all sports here at Prime Sports World, and definitely soccer, worldwide sport. And you'll be hearing more from me regarding soccer coming up on future podcasts. So let me move on to NBA trade rumors, and it seems like the only trade rumors that have been going down have been having to deal with the Bulls. And so the recent trade rumors, and I'll start with Jimmy Butler. Minnesota's come out and said, hey, we want Jimmy, and we're willing to give up the number 5 pick. Well, the Bulls kind of said, no, number 5 pick is not enough. You better throw Andrew Wiggins in there. And so if they could package a deal to where, the Bulls could get Wiggins and a number 5 pick, wow, we're jumping on that. You gotta jump on that, because Wiggins has superstar potential. He has superstar potential ability, and I think Jimmy Butler, he doesn't have superstar potential ability. I think Jimmy Butler's a really great two-way defender, probably one of the best in the game at his position, next to like Klay Thompson, because Klay just fills it up on the offensive end, but defensively I think Jimmy's a little bit better than Klay. But Klay's up there with Jimmy. But I think Jimmy's one of those guys that's gonna be he's gonna be at least probably 7 All-Stars, maybe 8 All-Stars maybe, but he's not a superstar. I don't think Jimmy's a superstar. There's a lot of guys that make multiple All-Star games that aren't superstars. Andrew Wiggins, or I'm gonna pronounce it right, Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins is going to be a superstar. The guy is, I don't even think the guy's 21 yet. And he is already in his second season. He eclipsed the 20-point average already on the season last year. So this year he's going to make another jump. And so he's already at this point at a young age already. Andrew Wiggins is better than Jimmy Butler offensively, and defensively he's just as athletic, probably even more athletic than Jimmy Butler. There's been reports that he has a 50-inch vertical, and when he dunks in games, shoot, you could see it. I think the Cavs messed up by not keeping Andrew Wiggins and getting Kevin Love. I think they should have kept Andrew Wiggins, because it would have been a great, big three between Andrew Wiggins, LeBron James, and Kyrie Irving. But with that being said, the Bulls said, "Oh, no go on that. That's number 5 pick. You're only gonna give us what? What is that? That's another slap in the face." Boston Celtics, same way. These guys are basically telling the Bulls, we don't think Jimmy's going to be a superstar, but we want Jim. We think Jimmy's a really good player, but we don't think Jimmy is going to be is worth a lot giving up. So teams are basically saying that they want to give Jimmy get Jimmy on their team because they value Jimmy, but they don't want to give any value back for Jimmy. So the Bulls are probably much in a standstill with a lot of NBA teams, and they're basically saying, hey, you guys have to give up more than just, a couple draft picks for Jimmy Butler. You're going to have to get a couple assets for Jimmy Butler. So it's pretty much, we're going to keep an eye and monitor that Jimmy Butler situation. And here we go again. Let's take a guess at who's the next player that's on the trade block. All right, and we have been hearing trade rumors. Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is news came out yesterday that the New York Knicks are very interested in Derrick Rose. They really want Derrick Rose, but they don't have a lot of assets to get Derrick Rose, and I'm pretty sure the Bulls would be open to trading him to the Knicks, and that would, if the Knicks land Derrick Rose, they are pretty much, they'll make the playoffs next year. They will have Derrick Rose, Carmelo Anthony, Kristaps Porzingis. You'll have Aaron Aflalo at the 2, and you pretty much have and then Robin Lopez at the 5. You pretty much have one of the better starting 5s in the Eastern Conference with that lineup. So that's why the New York Knicks are pushing real hard to try and get Derrick Rose, but they just don't have a lot of assets to give to the Bulls. They don't have any draft picks. They don't have any top or very good draft picks. They don't have any future draft picks. They gave up all of those. So the Knicks don't have a lot of assets. They don't have players that the Bulls want. You know, who are you going to trade? Derrick Williams? No. Jose Calderon? No. You know, you're going to have to trade somebody. You're going to have to trade, you know, one of your assets. They don't have many assets. They don't have many players that are talented enough for the Bulls to be like, hey, you know, we're going to give up Derrick Rose for, you know, this guy and this guy. And they don't have that. They don't. Their only two assets are Kristaps Porzingis and Carmelo Anthony, and they are untouchable. Nobody's going to get those guys. The only guy that I could see that can persuade any team that's gonna have a trade for any of those two players is probably Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron James, sitting down and saying, "Hey, we don't want Kevin Love anymore. We want Carmelo." And that's the only time I could see Carmelo being traded. Other than that, the guy's untouchable. Nobody's gonna take that contract, and nobody even wants that kind of. Nobody wants Carmelo. You know, people want Carmelo, but nobody really wants him. He's not that clutch. You know, he's a guy. He's pretty much he has that selfish. I'm not saying he's selfish, but around the league, he's got that mantra that he's a selfish player. And I'm pretty sure that's far from the truth. Looking at Carmelo looks like he wants to win bad. You know, he wants to win badly, but you know, he just hasn't been surrounded by any good players throughout. You know, he's been surrounded by some good teams in his career. That Denver Nuggets team that went to the Western Conference Finals was pretty good. The New York Knicks, I think made it to the second round against the Miami Heat back in like 2011 or 2012, I believe. So you know, he hasn't really been on really great teams to where, you know, they can make a deep playoff push. So definitely Carmelo is definitely untouchable for the Knicks, and they're not gonna give if you know they want a team with Derrick Rose, they want to upgrade the point guard position. So keeping Carmelo is in those plans. They, you know, if you just get rid of Carmelo and get Derrick Rose, you're taking more steps back than taking a step forward. So definitely, I don't think that Knicks trade is gonna happen. I don't think Derrick Rose is gonna get traded at all. Period. I think this is just all rumor. I think this is just all. I mean, it's rumor, but it's real. But I don't think it's gonna happen because a lot of these teams don't have assets, and the Bulls are just asking for a lot for Derrick Rose and Jimmy Butler. I mean, they're in terms of you could make the case for Jimmy, but Derrick really you can't make the case for it because he's almost like damaged goods. But at the same time, he's a former MVP. He's still in his 20s. Late 20s by that. I think he's like 27 or 28 now. And he's shown flashes last year that he can get back to where he used to be, but he definitely has to change his game just slightly. He has to get a better jumper at the 3-point line. He has to make more mid-range shots. He has to, you know, change his game like Chris Paul had to change his game. You know, Chris Paul was a little bit more explosive than he was, but he had to change his game so he doesn't get injured. He plays a little bit more on the mid-range. He developed such a crazy good mid-range game, and that's what Derrick Rose needs to develop. He has to develop a better mid-range game so he can be more effective. He just has to change his game a little bit, and Derrick Rose will be right back where he was playing at a very high level. So definitely, I don't think Derrick Rose is going to get traded this offseason. If anything, I think they're going to keep Derrick. They're going to keep Jimmy. They're going to see what happens with this. They're going to see what happens. The only thing I could see Jimmy going. I don't see Derrick going. I think point guards are very important in this league. And so at where the Bulls are in the draft, you ain't going to get a point guard. I would love at that, I think they got the 14th pick. I would love to see Denzel Valentine fall to that and then pick up Denzel Valentine, because I think Denzel Valentine is going to have a sort of like a Draymond Green type of impact, except I think he's going to score more, he's going to shoot more threes, he's going to assist more. He's not going to rebound or play as good as defense as Draymond, but on the offensive end, I think Denzel Valentine is going to be a better player than Draymond Green is and will be. So I hope that Denzel Valentine is being a big Bulls fan, and I don't like to be biased on these podcasts, but I just put it out there. I'm a Bulls fan, and you know, as Bulls fans, we hope that a player like Denzel Valentine slips to us. So I don't want to get off topic of that, but like I said, point guards are big in this league. in the NBA, and you don't want to get rid of your franchise point guard and Derrick Rose for nothing, for players that are not on his level or never been on his level before. So I think the Bulls are going to probably stay pat, and they always stay pat. These rumors have always floated. They're always going to stay pat. But if Joakim Noah doesn't re-sign and Pau Gasol leaves, they're going to have $25 million. They're going to have $25 million to spend. $25 million towards the in terms of extra cap space for the Bulls, so they could go and sign somebody. They could go ahead and go sign a Hassan Whiteside if they wanted to, and give him a max. I believe they can offer him a max deal without going into the luxury tax. I gotta look at the numbers a little bit, but if they did offer Hassan Whiteside probably like a 5-year, $90 million contract without bringing back Gasol, without bringing back Noah, I think that would work out, because not having those two guys would free up a lot of money for a big time free agent to come to Chicago and make a difference. So I think the Bulls staying pat. I think the Bulls are going to go hard at Whiteside. I think the Bulls are going to throw a lot of money at Whiteside to come to Chicago. I think they're good at the 4 spot. I think if they don't go and try and get Whiteside, there are other free agents that they can go get with that money that can improve their team. Honestly, they have Mirotic, they have Bobby Portis, they have I think losing Noah and Gasol kind of was a little bit better with Cristiano Felicio playing good at the end of the season, because you could bring that big man off the bench for about 15 to 20 minutes a game, and he could play like that Festus Ezeli role where he just goes in there, runs, jumps, block shots, and dunks on people. So that's all you need, and he's a rim protector, and so that's all you need pretty much from Cristiano Felicio. And then you got Bobby Portis, who I believe is going to take a big step next season. And then you got Nico Mirotic, who he was injured all year last year. I expect Nico to have a bounce back year this year, and I expect the Bulls to have a bounce back season next year. I expect the Washington Wizards to have a bounce back season next year. I expect a couple teams in the East to have bounce back seasons next season and go back to the playoffs. So with that being said, my consensus on the trade rumors for Jimmy and Derrick are, yeah, they're rumors, yeah, they're real, but no, it ain't happening. There ain't going to be no trade. The Bulls are always been frugal on trading anybody. So definitely don't think Derrick Rose is going to get traded this offseason, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him on his expiring deal. I know he wants to get another max deal. He's not worth a max deal. Let's be serious. You're not worth a max deal, Derrick Rose. Not anymore. So next year, if he does play in the Bulls uniform, he's going to play his butt off so he can prove that he's going to get a max deal. And I can see Derrick Rose having a better year next season, this coming season coming up, than he did, this past season. So with that being said, other NBA news, there's been a lot of talk about, who's Thon Maker? Who is this kid? He's mysterious. I've seen a lot of stories about, man, Thon Maker is the biggest mystery in the draft. Well, this is what you're going to get out of Thon Maker. 6'11", can handle the ball, can jump out the gym, can shoot the jumper. But he hasn't played in college yet. He hasn't played against grown men. He's been playing out of Canada. I don't want to knock Canadian basketball, but Thon Maker didn't play that great a competition in high school. Now, with that being said, we don't look at their high school, their literal high school. We look at like their AAU tapes, and on that circuit alone, Thon Maker has beasted the top talents that have come out of high school and have gone to college. So with that being said, looking at Thon Maker, he's gonna be a project. He's gonna be a project coming out of high school, definitely. But Thon Maker, I would say in about 2 or 3 years from being drafted, and he's probably gonna go late first round, early second round, because teams don't want to take. You know, if he would have went to Indiana or Kentucky or something this year, next season, and then if he would have went, you know, to one of those schools, and then he would have showed out, he would have been a lottery pick the following draft. But since he wants to come out of high school this season, he's gonna be a late first rounder, and he's gonna have to work his butt off to prove that he could get in the lineup. But I think his skill set matches up pretty well with today's NBA game. Big, tall, slender bigs. He could play the 4. He could play the 3 or the 4. I don't think he has so much. I don't think he's quick enough to play the 3 at the NBA level, but I definitely think he could play the 4. He could bring out certain 4s out to the perimeter, cross them up, you know, shoot over them, or do whatever. He's very athletic. I could see him having that Giannis Antetokounmpo type of impact. First year, you seen glances. Wow, this kid has got the potential to be a star. Second season, wow, this kid is amazing. You know, Giannis is just killing it. And then this past season, Giannis is just like, this kid's gonna be a superstar. This kid is going to be a superstar. There's a triple-double waiting to happen. You know, every single night, Giannis was like a triple-double waiting to happen. So I can see that type of impact with Thon Maker in terms of young player coming into the NBA, has a slender build, but he's going to be super athletic. He has a lot of skill for 6'11", 7-foot guy. He can shoot the ball. He can dribble the ball for his size, for his position. And he'll definitely, I'm going to compare him. His impact is going to be just like how Giannis Antetokounmpo started off slow, rookie season, showed glimpses of superstardom. Second season, showed consistency that he can be. He showed consistency that he can be a good player in this league. And then this past season, Giannis has knocked at the door, and next year he will be a superstar. He's gonna. Jason Kidd has already said this guy's gonna play the 1. He's gonna be a superstar. So, like I said, Thon Maker, young guy, is gonna come into the league. He's gonna get a lot of great coaching. But a team is gonna have to. They're going to have to be patient with the young pup, because he's definitely going to have some learning curves coming into the NBA, going from high school to the NBA. So with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed the podcast. Like I said, leave your comments and concerns. Drop a comment there on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, SoundCloud, on the YouTube channel. Everybody go, please share the podcast. Please listen to the podcast. And until next time.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.